Hi everybody, hope you're doing marvelously well. In today's episode, we're going to do something I've never done before, which is review a podcast mic. So the podcast mic we're going to review is in this box, and it is by Earthworks. Now Earthworks, for those of you who know the name, know they're very famous for making a microphone called an M30. And the reason why that is widely known is because the M30 is, I suppose, the industry standard for measurement mics. In fact, they sell them as a pair and they get used all the time for measurement. And yes, I own a pair and I use them precisely for that. I've been to rooms, huge rooms, and measured it, pumped white noise, pink noise, music through it, and measured rooms. And for that very purpose, I bought a pair of Earthworks M30s. So, very renowned for making very flat response, very, very accurate mics. So, I have never used this podcasting mic. It's still boxed. We're going to open it up, and what we're going to do is we're going to put it up against probably the other industry standard, which of course is the Shure SM7, which I use every day. So let's open it up and give it a try. So here it is. It's quite substantial. Broadcast quality. It's called the Icon Pro XLR streaming microphone. Now, we had a quick look on the website, and they do actually do a USB version of this as well, which is cheaper. This, I believe, is $499, which is comparable to an SM7, obviously. It's in that realm. And the USB one, I think, is $349, so $150 less. But, let's bear in mind, Earthworks are renowned for making high-quality microphones, measurement-quality microphones. So I'm expecting great things. So we figured out this is how you open it up. It must have a magnet in it there. Look at that. So you keep this box. Oh, okay. I love good presentation. Look at that. Look at that. So here we have the mic. Well, you know what? Let's get one thing at a time. So this weighs a lot. Wow. So it's a lot smaller than I was going to imagine it was going to be. It's rather beautiful though. Very, very beautiful looking microphone. And this is sort of the range of Earthworks stuff. Is it's very, very well designed, very well machined. I mean, this is a work of art. Weighs a lot. It might look small, but obviously they put a lot of time and energy into designing the look of this and making sure it's really well engineered. It's rather gorgeous. I can see the capsule in there. Okay, so here obviously is how it mounts. Like here, like so. And I can tighten it like this. And then you've got full control like this, which is rather nice. And you can tighten it like that. There you go. It says for professional gaming, podcasting, live streaming, and broadcasting. Okay, I mean, they're trying to cover all of the bases here. I mean, we know that obviously, as a measurement mic company, they're second to none. They're considered an industry standard. So I'm assuming they're going to give us something pretty amazing. So let's set this up next to an SM7. We're going to put them in completely flat into two independent channels and just a good old-fashioned audio interface. And Earthworks very generously have given us one to give away. You can enter down below to win one of these beautiful looking mics. So this is quite exciting. We have the SM7, which is unmuted at the moment, and the Icon Pro up side by side. I've got a pop screen on both of them. Just to give them a fighting chance, I can take the pop screens off as well. But in a real world, I'm going to put a pop screen on it. I'm sure you will as well. But we can hear them with and without. Okay, the next thing we've done is recording them simultaneously, but we're only obviously listening to one at a time. So, of course, being this close together, if we had them both unmuted at the same time, you'd hear both of them together. At the moment, you're just hearing the SM7. So before we get any clever, let's just keep talking. And now I've gone over to the Icon Pro. Okay, I don't know what you're going to be hearing on YouTube because of the algorithm, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? That you'll be hearing it how it's going to be used. Immediately, there's more warmth in there. And, you know, the thing about the SM7 is when I'm using it, I'm typically doing a 200 hertz boost on an SM7. That is very, very standard to bring in some girth on it. See the girth? I don't seem to need to do that here. And one of the things about my voice is sometimes at the end of words, I go to the back of my throat. It's quite a, I suppose not necessarily an English thing, but it's something I do where often I'll go and say, you know, better, And so what ends up happening is without the low boost in there, that low note that comes from the back of your throat, at least in my instance, tends to get lost. I'm not feeling that so far on this. That's an immediate reaction. I like doing this in real time. Okay, we unmuted the SM7 here. Now, the next thing you'll notice if you go over here to the audience that I did a quick balance, and I have got, this is the SM7 coming in here, and it's cranked. It's absolutely cranked. Now, that is not unheard of in an SM7. There's quite often many people don't have enough gain to use it, so they use a cloud lifter. Now, in this instance, that doesn't really make any sense to put the cloud lifter on it because that's a third-party thing that we'd be adding to this chain. All we're doing is using the gain. So it's cranked here. It's right up here to get a decent printed level. Okay, just keep talking. Moving over to the mute icon Pro here. What I like about this is it's really full and it seems a lot more even. So immediately, I don't feel like I have to talk as loud. That the SM7, which I like, don't get me wrong, we keep saying it's an industry standard. It makes me sort of talk like this and I'm trying to cut through, and here I just feel nice and warm and enveloped. You know, let's maybe bring down the level just a little bit to make sure it's not a level difference, but I think it's pretty even. If I go, well, let's do the famous, you know, Mary had a little lamb, her fleece was white as snow. Let's move over to the SM7, and it's all back to mid-range. Mary had a little lamb, her fleece was white as snow. Psst, psst, psst. So you can see why it's all gone very nasally here. You can see why we put a 200 kind of like, you know, boost down there to try and warm it back up again. But if I'm going to try and keep talking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's really nice and clean. You don't be surprised if you see me using this from now on. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we put on a Nugent Visualizer 2 plugin. So here we've got the, you'll see it's very small, but there's the Icon Pro here. So let's just see how it reads that. 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. And this is just the default settings for the Visualizer 2. So as you can see, it's not overly bright in here. You are obviously, if I do fleece, it's not getting carried away. It's actually, I don't know how to explain it. It sounds pretty even. I mean, it's reading, you know, quite general. I'm just waffling on here deliberately because I'm just talking because I want to get as much information as possible so we can see what kind of curve it's presenting us with. But, you know, there's the but. That's mid-rangey. Let's make sure to say that on the other one. Okay. I'm going to bypass it so it's not reading coincidence stuff. I'm now going to mute that. I just muted that. Now I'm on the SM7, and let's turn on the Nugent Visualizer 2. 1, 2, 2, 2. Mary had a little lamb, her fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Now what's interesting is side by side, it just seems, fleece, let's do the fleece, fleece was white as snow. I mean, it seems to be giving us what we're hearing. I mean, we're hearing, if you look, a sort of a peak around the mid-range, a lot of sort of 400-ish around here. You know, it's basically peaking 400. What do we got here? A bit of 700, which is super honky, and those are the sort of nasal frequencies. Nah, the but, yeah. I'm gonna get sampled, aren't I, on that one? Anyway, so yeah. And the more I talk and the more I just let it do what it's supposed to do, and I'm just, like we did on the other one, you can see that it's reading very mid-rangey. And that might be good in some circumstances to have that mid-range kind of stuff. However, I know that we're using quite a lot of multiband and dynamic EQs to try and even it up. And again, I'll just keep talking at the same level. Let's bypass that. You're going to hear me disappear for a second while I mute and unmute. But going back over here, immediately don't want to talk as loud. I don't know what it is. It just feels nicer and smoother. Okay, so these microphones are at similar price point. This definitely does sound like it's, quite frankly, tuned to be something for a podcast where it's warm and inviting. And yeah, let's just take off the pop screens. As promised, here's no pop screen. Pop, 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 pop. Not excessive, but it was probably worth just putting... there, probably a little bit. So, obviously, that's making a bit of a difference. Let's go over to the SM7 without the pop screen on. Pop screen, pop screen, pop screen. Mary had a little lamb. Pop, pop, pop. Back over. Pop, pop, pop. It's doing what you'd expect. There's a little bit more low end when you do the popping sound because this microphone has a little bit more low end. But what's interesting, if we go back to the visualizer here, there's low end, but it's still, see, there's 100. What's this down? It's down minus 30, about minus 30 on 100. And here it's down about minus 35 on 100. You know, again, and they're giving similar levels in the low mids. It's just it's super mid-rangey. Yeah. So basically, once again, the SM7 is that mid-rangey kind of honky nasal tone, which for my voice is not flattering at all, and probably not for many people. I don't know what else to say except that this sounds really nice and smooth. I was prepared to be wrong, or prepared to have them sound the same and think, well, you know, the lovely people at Earthworks have designed an SM7 kind of competitor. I think they've done more than that. I think they've designed an SM7 beta. At least for me, my voice, this sounds like a podcast to me. I think, I wonder if we can use this above, because when we do a lot of these kind of voiceover stuff, we've got a mic above. I don't know if that'll work, but let's hope it does. We'll try it in the next one, and we'll mix it and see what it sounds like. Because when we have a mic out of frame, I mean, obviously this is designed for podcasting, but if I move back and talk here, I wonder if that will work. If it does, yeah, really nice. There you go. You can enter to win. There will be a link down below. I really like this. The proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they say. Wait, let's do that one more time. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Let's go to the other one. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Yeah, that mid-range on my voice is not flattering. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Hey, we should do something before we get off. Eric, come in and talk to this microphone. Let's hear what it sounds like on somebody else's voice. I know what's probably what all of the lovely people out here are watching. They're probably all thinking to themselves, yes, but Warren, that's your voice.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Switch over. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck? It sounds so boring. I just feel like I just sound so boring over here on the SM7, and that's how I would describe it as like just hearing it for the first time. It just doesn't. It just yeah. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
How does it sound in your headphones? Is it? I don't want to put any words into your mouth. What are you hearing?
Let me.
Doesn't it? This one makes you want to talk quieter, and it's more warm and inviting.
Yeah, and I hear
like, hi.
I hear what you're saying. I didn't understand it. I was trying to understand it when you said like this one makes you want to. You have to like push more, and it makes sense because when we do those videos, you are. You're speaking, you're talking, you're shouting, you're talking more into the mic, directly into it. But as this one, you don't have to do that.
It's more warm and inviting.
It really is, yeah. Like that's warm and inviting. Yes.
Yeah, and you can clear the visualizer and let's see how they look different. So hit clear.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Let me switch over now.
You have to bypass that.
Oh yes, clear. All right. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Yeah, it's I definitely prefer the Icon Pro. It just sounds over here. It just sounds not as good to me. I mean, I don't know if I can say that.
No, you can say that. This is yeah, this is not like a science, but yeah, it's interesting. The SM7 is reading a lot more mid-range on your voice again. So it's not just my voice, which, I'm sure, obviously everybody's voice has a different thing. I have a little bit more lows in my voice. I'm older than you. When I was younger, I had as I get older, your voice seems to drop. At least mine does. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? To have Eric come in and just do another voice. Very impromptu. But I understand that all of you watching are probably thinking to yourself, well, I don't have your voice, Warren. So as a control, we've got somebody who's not English and has a completely different voice. I really like this mic. And bearing in mind they're basically the same price. And no disrespect to the SM7. We use this mic in many, many different situations all the time. And probably somebody who's got the opposite, like a super bassy with no mid-range whatsoever, this probably works really, really well. But my guess is that this is, considering that Eric and I have two completely different voices, and the guttural reaction from both of us is this sounds wonderful. What did you say? That this sounded boring compared with this? Yeah. You said the SM7 sounded boring compared with it. Again, no disrespect to the SM7, one of the greatest, most versatile mics ever made. Absolutely wonderful. I know the dearly departed, incredible Ed Cherney loved the SM7 on vocals. So did Bruce Swedian. On Michael Jackson famously used an SM7 on Thriller. All of those things are absolutely wonderful, but we're using this for speech and podcasting. And I've got to say, my personal preference by a mile is this. So Earthworks, thank you ever so much for sending it to us to try. I really appreciate it. And, of course, you can enter to win the mic down below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I really appreciate it. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, adio. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.